everybody. With this Fast and Furious episode, we are launching something special. At Inbound, we are launching action plans. And Digital J2's helped us build this product from the ground up. And they're launching their new HubSpot onboarding platform. So we would love for you to meet us if you're at Inbound, 2 p.m. on Thursday the 19th. We will talk all about how action plans works. And for the entire month of September into October, if you do a HubSpot onboarding with Digital J2, you will get 60% off Supered for 12 months. Would love for y'all to come see how Supered works, how Action Plan works, and join us as we go make forth as much awesome as humanly possible. Stay awesome, keep doing it big, and stay super. Yes, where we chat to HubSpot partners that are running the race and winning. Today I'm joined by, I call him ET, not the alien, but the CEO of Digital J2. One of the things Digital J2 is known for is they have made the switch from a full-fledged marketing agency into a RevOps shop that focuses on hubboarding and HubSpot implementations. Elite partner. Glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us today.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Hey, let's learn about the journey. And I'd like to talk about this and why HubSpot? So, and then go into, I'd like to sit in for a bit is why the switch from marketing and RevOps and what made you make that call and what went into that. Start with HubSpot. What, as an organization, when did y'all say, hey, we're going to be 100%? Like what made you say, I'm going to give up everything and I'm going to go 100% into HubSpot?
Well, in the beginning, I started Digital J2 right out of college. So I didn't really have much experience of scaling or standardizing processes and whatnot. So the approach had been just using different platforms and tools as we go. And as we started to hire individuals, it was just very difficult to know a lot of the different platforms as we were executing marketing strategies. In true inbound fashion, I downloaded a ebook over at HubSpot, and ring, they gave me a call, told me about the partner program, and I was like, that's they walked me through like, hey, like you need to standardize, you need to do this, and it just sounded like what we needed to do, because at that moment it was just I was just starting to hire some people and it was getting difficult, and I was like, maybe it's time to standardize around a system. And I just I knew a little bit about HubSpot, to be honest. I didn't know too deep into it. And I was like, let's just standardize around it. And we did. And it was the best thing that we could have done.
So what year was this, as you were thinking about scaling, you're hiring initial employees, looking to start scaling, you need to niche so you can actually hire and get, what year was that around when y'all joined the program?
I think it was in 2018. Yeah, around 2018.
So y'all went all in on HubSpot 2018. At that point, you're a marketing agency, right? Yeah. Lead me, you'll make the switch in last year, right? 2023. Yeah. What between 2018, besides COVID, what between 2018, and I had a little COVID issue, what between 2018 and 2023 made you make the choice saying, hey, we need to make a fundamental shift to the offers we're having, like the offering, and make the switch to being a HubSpot implementation shop? What changed?
So there's a couple of factors. We really struggled as a small company scaling marketing services because, as we were finding out, you have to have a lot of different skill sets needed to deliver marketing service. You need a paid media strategist, you need a strategist, you need a project manager, you need a designer, you need a copywriter, you need a developer. It's a lot of different skill sets. And as you're a small team, if you only have 2 copywriters on staff and you lose one, you lost half of your capacity. And it became quite disruptive with trying to scale and break through that, because we were so spread out in our skills in order to deliver marketing services. So, that was a constant challenge. And I'm like, I wish we could. Why do we have 7 different positions, skill sets for delivery? How can we reduce it so we could reduce our hiring, onboarding, who we're looking for, and just get really good at it? And so it's kind of searching through it. And in the time we were part of HubSpot's PSO program, we were one of 3 to ever start the program from the very beginning. And it was kind of just a side thing. It was just like, we're always using HubSpot. We're doing PSO, and it was
for everybody listening, PSO, just so we know, it's just so you heard, it's partner scaled onboarding. I think now it's a bit bigger, but it's this HubSpot will pay you to do their onboarding, like recreate their onboarding experience. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And so it was kind of like it was just kind of a side thing, and it was very hands off. It was just constantly producing profits. We're upselling, cross selling, and I just kind of got to an inflection point, coupled with ChatGPT rolling out, where I got really nervous with inbound marketing in general with AI. I feel like with inbound marketing, the concept is let's create content around predominant questions, and then they'll find us, and then we could work to start a relationship. And I think that SEO and inbound is not totally gone, but I think AI is going to begin taking away a lot of that search volume. So I think in general, search traffic is just going to be declining, not growing. And so I think it's going to be more difficult. And I think that with AI, with graphic design and content writing, I felt like it was becoming more of a commodity, and that it was just margins were only going to shrink more, and wanted to try to find something different. So at that point, as I was searching, kind of looking at the company, I'm like, PSO's operating well, and HubSpot is going this direction going up market. They're really double downing on their CRM platform. Maybe we could move with them in that. And when looking at the partner ecosystem, there was at the time, like 98% were marketing agencies, and like only 2% were in that, and that were technical. And we're like, hey, that might be a less competitive place. Let's do that. And so we've dramatically changed. We did a whole reorg, totally focused on that. We went from low volume to very high volume with implementations and onboarding. And it's been great.
Lots of knowledge bombs thrown in there, and it's often like seeing around the corner. I think it was like your job as you're leading, steering the ship, seeing around the corner. I like how you thought about that. It was very clear how you're thinking about the next thing. One of the so where you at, like, just as we think about where you're at today, so you're 2024, you've now made the switch. But one thing we haven't talked about is you're an elite partner. Like, where during this time, how did you view the HubSpot tiers, and how has the switch affected your tier? Like, how are you thinking through that? Has it had any effect at all?
Yeah, very positively it has. I mean, in the beginning, we didn't really, to be honest, care too much about the tiering. We are a marketing agency, so we just wanted clients, and we just happened to deliver through HubSpot. So we didn't. I mean, the tiering was cool, but we weren't really strong on caring for that. Obviously, when we moved to be HubSpot implementation, tiering is quite important, because we're going to say we're the best, we're the top, one of the top partners to help you get into the HubSpot system successfully. And so at that point, we really cared about it. And so, as a marketing agency, we were Diamond. At one point, Diamond was the highest, but right when we hit Diamond, they introduced Elite. And I'm like, damn it!
I switched it.
And the gap was quite significant at the time. And but once we went into HubSpot implementation, we knew it was important. We said we need to focus on this. We need to achieve Elite. And through the nature of us implementing onboarding, we're getting a lot more people into the onboarding system. And then, but it does help. Getting the Elite status helps a lot internally at HubSpot's org, but also helps with credibility with our prospects.
So y'all sitting in Elite. We talk about where we're at today. What does the org look like in terms of like revenue and people? And then I'll talk about what were the biggest trends, like issues having you scaling to where you are today? Because you're always in a point of scale. Like you're just a point of the journey. You keep going. What does it look like today?
As in just kind of like how we set up our teams in general?
Not necessarily. I mean, we can go through, because that's probably something you had to figure out in order to scale. But like in terms of like just number of employees, general revenue, where do you sit today?
Okay. Yeah. Right now we have 25 full-time employees, many different contractors that we work with. Off that, probably an additional 20 contractors that we work with on servicing our clients right now. And we get around 25 to 50 customers per month for different types of onboardings off that side that's there. Right now we're trying to focus on how do we how do we continue to work with these people post, but through like a managed service program. And so we're still figuring that out. We have a very strong, great delivery method for implementation and guided onboards, but still trying to figure out that MRR process there.
Hello, is 25 to 50 net new logos every single month going in. That's just
yeah, it was a big change for us because
yes.
you know, when we were a marketing agency, you know, our average order value is a lot different, right? So as a marketing agency, we'd probably acquire 3 new customers per month, but it was MRR. It'd be like 8-10 grand per month. And so like selling was different. We didn't really need to put a lot of investment into selling because you just get the retainers, you get a couple, and then you just hold on to it. And then, you know, changing to this, you know, we're leading with projects versus retainers. And then, you know, we have our project range is pretty drastic. Like you could go to 3 grand to, you know, 200 grand, depending on what it is. I would say overall average is probably around like a, you know, 7 grand total, you know, average project value on average that's there. So that was a pretty big shock. You know, this was not too long ago to make from 3 customers a month to going to high volume. So now we had to figure out, all right, now we got to build a sales department because now you got to keep that process moving. And then your processes were that much more important because if you're doing that many more, we had to really start to iron a lot of those out through the process.
That's a crazy shift. What as you're thinking about as you made this, hey, I see the market. I think that margins are going to continue to decrease on inbound marketing. So I'll make a shift to implementation. I think HubSpot's going up market and they're going to have mid-market and they're going to continue to expand. And even if their customer base is going to expand faster than their partners' ability to serve, which I think is I'd actually say that's a true statement today. They need more partners than they have.
Yeah.
And you made this switch to position you to be one of the premier implementation companies in the ecosystem. What have been like your 3 challenges you make this switch? That's not an easy switch. Me having done a organization before, I hear that and I just think sleepless nights, lots of coffee. You still have all your hair. Like I'm just like what?
No,
like
this isn't real.
I've had surgery. What were the 3 biggest challenges you thought about this that you had to overcome, and how did you think about that problem set?
Well, I think the first one was just having the conviction to just be like, let's make this change. You know, my leaders weren't really seeing what I was seeing, and they were very reluctant to making this change because I basically was saying we will no longer sell marketing services and we will only do this, and this is where we're going. So I think it's comfortable to just continue to do what you do, and it's, you know, scary to do something that's brand new, especially like, I mean, the company was kind of totally, you know, it's like a new company in some regards. So I think it was just that the hardest part was just getting the confidence to say, do it. And so I would say that was number 1. Number 2 is,
before we move on to I should say that's big. So, I mean, I've been in, as orgs get larger, they get more difficult to steer. And often to see it, like we often, at least in our postmodern modernity, like it's consensus, it's very easy to fall into that. Yeah. And it's often the worst type of decisions. And agreement is not what's most important. Commitment is what's most important. And the CEO's job is not to make decisions everyone agrees with. They make decisions that's most healthy for the business, and everybody's committed to it. How did you, like, I think you made this decision. How did you get everyone committed to making a switch?
I have a really great leadership team. It took me a long time. It took me maybe 3 attempts at a leadership team, and the 4th finally kind of got the right people who were all vulnerable. And you know, my philosophy is like, I like to be challenged big time. And honestly, if I don't get challenged, I get upset because I do not want my team to be like, okay, sure, that sounds good. Like, and then they say later on, I knew that was going to work. I don't talk like that. Like, I do not want to hear that. I'm like, challenge me right there and then. I want to hear if it's a crappy idea. Let's not do that. but I'm not, when I request feedback, I'll say, look, I can't promise you I'm going to do what you're giving me, but I'm always going to listen. I'm always going to listen intently. And then I may execute on that or I may not, but my promise is I'll always listen. And so through years of working with the team, we have strong trust with the leaders and whatnot. And so, they push back, but that's what I want them to do. They push back and, ultimately said, this is where we're going to go. And this is why. And then, they kind of had their word out, and then we were like, okay, let's go. We're going to move. And then they committed. I have a great, they're great. And so they committed with it. And then we went through the rest of the team off it. But it was a challenge. It was the first Q1 and Q2 were really difficult in just the org chart changes. Was rough. Unfortunately, we took one thing I will retrospectively looking at it is we were so focused on going here that we didn't protect our eggs of the legacy business being marketing services. And so unfortunately, through the org chart changes, it was pain. Everyone was stressed out and whatnot. We took our eye off that, and we actually churned the most MRR that we've ever churned prior.
Wow.
Because we focused all on this. Now, we got to the other side, which was great. But learning again in the future, if I do this, it's like, all right, well, what's the plan to make sure we keep that nice and protected as we're going here versus, looking all on that side that's there.
There's two things I'd like to point out that you just said. One of them, I'm a big advocate, and I did a full thing on this. Big advocate of Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team.
Yeah,
and
I do too.
Layer 1, and it sounds like you're talking the language, but layer 1 is trust, and the most important thing, the only thing is vulnerability. And if you can't be vulnerable and people know your story, and if you're like, hey, I want to do this, you have to be able to then have conflict. And that conflict creates commitment. That commitment creates accountability, and that accountability allows you to perform. And it's like, there is no other way.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to learn with what you just said.
That book influenced me a lot. Like everything that I've applied to my leadership team follows that book. And
you almost gave your next obstacle was, okay, we make a switch, but we don't have any revenue here yet. So like we have eggs here. We have our golden goose, and it has to keep on laying. And it's a time bomb, right? And it's how long can we keep it? And you probably had some mitigation, but you just wish you would have done more in that. And what was number 3? As you think you're making this switch, you have leadership team commitment, you have making sure you have your golden egg, like there is still eggs, and that's what funds the company. What's number 3 as you make this change? What was the biggest obstacle?
It was getting the team members cross-trained. That was, we end up taking one of our most senior HubSpot onboarding specialists and moved her to be a trainer. And so, we did let some people go and hire new people, but we also had a lot of really great talent that we wanted to repurpose. And so regardless of firing and hiring or, moving personnel from different positions, there was still a large training component to get going. And so, that was the next thing, was to get someone really predominantly focused on getting that happening, getting that going. And then, in regards to the selling, I don't know, it just kind of happened. We've always done really well in the PSO program. We always have the best numbers, like the best. Like one of my biggest things that I've always worked towards is like, if we're going to do it, let's do it like the best. And if someone's upset, it happens. Why? How can we be fair and resolve it? Fair is a big one for me. It's not you just get unlimited scope. Let's be fair. If there's misunderstanding or whatnot, let's make sure it's fair on both sides, you and us, on that side. So I always have, our reputation is a big one. And so I think that when we told HubSpot we were making this shift, there was a lot of HubSpot individuals that kind of helped us make that shift. And then, we've targeted our existing install base and whatnot, and the sales started coming pretty quick, to be honest, with it.
I've never done anything like what you've done. I've done things, but not switched the entire organization from we're going northwest. I mean, we're still going to HubSpot. It's called North, but going northwest to northeast.
Yeah, in some ways, I wonder if I should have just made another company. I don't know. I'm not sure. It probably could have been better.
But I had mad respect for it, and I know a lot of people are thinking about how. Sometimes people are switching from RevOps to go full marketing, or they want to do website only. There's all these different things you can think of. I'm going to do recruit, whatever it is. I think what you talked about, which is like keeping your revenue, like having hard commitment from the leadership team, thinking about revenue and how you're going to make the switch and make sure you're able to fund the switch. Number 3, retraining and how to get people trained.
Yeah.
That there's going to be true no matter what switch you're making.
Yeah.
As you're coming out of this, what are, like, you think about the switch, what is one thing you would never do again?
I will never, it's so cliche. Like, you hear it all the time, but you don't really think about it when you're in it. Like, when you're first getting started, you're just wanting revenue. You're just wanting dollars to come in, and you will say yes to anything. And it took me so long to be like, hey, we need to just niche down and focus, because then everything becomes easier. Everything, selling becomes easier, the servicing becomes easier, the invoicing, whatever, becomes easier, the hiring becomes easier. And so I think that I would have just tried to niche down as soon as possible, and put a very high sense of self-education on how to hire the right people. Because I think that if the keys are, if you could get great people and hold them accountable and give them the vision, they'll do a lot of the hard work. And I didn't do that for a while. And I didn't do well holding people accountable in the past, off that side. So I would say.
So I like to ask both sides of these coins, and you've answered both of them in this. I'm going to go one additional question there is, what's one thing you never do again? Mm-hmm. And that is take revenue from anybody without having like niche, because everything gets easier. And there's just not, it's not true. We're talking about trickle down, and whether you agree or disagree with different economic models, it works in niching. Let me just be really clear. Yeah. Like every person we talked about, like it is true. That is it. It's almost a law of business.
Yeah.
But number 2 is something you wish you did earlier, is hire great people. What I really caught there was keep people accountable. Can you go further? What do you mean by what's one thing you wish you did earlier when you say accountability and keeping, and that was difficult? What was the switch? What allowed you to make the change?
Well, it was difficult. I tend to be like, there's the spectrum of like really nice people and then assholes. I'm really like the really nice person, and I've had to work to not be an asshole, but be kind of in the middle. That's there. And I would tend to, coming out of school, right out of college, I went and started this. So I never have worked in a professional setting before. So I never knew how hard should people work if it's not their company or whatnot. So I had a hard time understanding, like, what should I expect from people and how far should they go? And so having a lack of that understanding and then being this nice guy, I found myself, doing a lot of people's jobs for a while, and I'm like working like crazy. And ultimately, I want to scale and grow. My biggest fun aspect is I really like growing with everyone. Like, it's fun to just see the company grow, and then people learn and they get promoted and they change. Like, that to me is like that's like the funnest part. And I was just like, it had hit the ceiling that I could no longer grow by following this management style. And so it was just a lot of self-education and mentors to be like, hey, like, accountability is, really understanding what you've hired them to do and ensuring they have the right necessary resources and support, and then holding them accountable to do it. So if it's say, hey, when are we going to get this accomplished? What's the date? Being hard on that. And then the other thing is just asking a lot more questions. I had tended to always just want to answer the question and be like, hey, do this. Or they'll say, hey, I'm having this problem. Oh, do this. But they don't, if you do that, people don't really like learn it. They're just you start to develop order takers and versus getting them to critically think. And so that was a challenge to develop. And I'm still working on that, but you already know what the answer is and what they should do, but not just giving it to them and forcing them to critically think, and you guide them to the solution through questions. And that's ultimately going to get them to be in a better spot.
There's another great book on what you just said there. It's called Turning the Ship. And they have this whole like question answer.
I
One of
didn't
the
see
most
that.
powerful, and you've like giving accountability. One was like, hey, is good question. What's your recommendation? And like
Yeah.
it actually like forces people to. You mean I have the power? You mean I can do that? But yeah. What's your recommendation?
Yeah. So you recommend that book? It was a good book.
Yeah. Actually, they have this. I'll send something after this.
Okay.
I'll put it in the show notes too, guys. I'll put it in the show
Nice.
notes. So these 2 books we talked about: Five Function of a Team, and Turn Around the Ship.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. It is this. We've talked about making the shift from marketing agency to RevOps or HubSpot implementation. What's your next big bet? Like, what's the thing that's going to allow you to scale and grow in 2024/2025?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is we're in 2025 planning right now, and everyone's still they're like twitching a little bit from the changes that we've already done. And I said, guys, I was like, don't worry, because we have our annual event coming up in October. We fly everyone in, and we start to communicate 2025. Like, look, we're not doing anything big. We're double downing. And so our biggest thing right now is we're getting a lot of volume. We're going to work to increase that volume, but we need to find we're getting there, but we need to find our conversion of those implementations to managed services. And so we're going to look to increase our volume by probably 2 to 3x, but we need to get our project to MRR conversions where they need to be, and they're not there yet. So we're really going to just be double downing on our strategy, and if we do those things, we're crushing.
I love it. I hope we're launching something at Inbound. This will come before. Hopefully, it'll help you do that.
Yeah.
So if you want to learn more about that, we'll have Inbound. You'll see lots of posts about it. ET, appreciate you. If people want to talk to you more about your experiences or anything about HubSpot, how's the best way to get in contact with you?
I would say, you guys could reach out to me via email if you'd like. You can reach me at et@digitaljay2.com, and emails are the best form of communication.
I love it. Well, thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Keep doing it big and stay awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it, man. See you.
See you.